Right guys, another week and we are back for some more Championship transfer rumours. Plenty going on in the league right now. Obviously we've got the Euros kicking off later this week, but all the focus today is on the Championship. Any other rumours that you've seen, pop them in the comments down below. But without any further ado, let's just jump in. We'll start out with some managerial news. Obviously last week we saw Errol Bulut extending his contract at Cardiff. It was a situation that had rumbled on for quite some time, and I'm sure every Cardiff fan is happy. Now they've got a little bit more clarity on the situation and they can properly start preparing for next season now. Speaking of managerial news, Sunderland are still looking for their next manager. Plenty of names still in the hat as of recording. The likes of Liam Rosenior, Rennie Marek, and I've even seen Marty Cifuentes linked with the job as well. As of recording, going off the bookies odds, Liam Rosenior is the favourite for the role at the Stadium of Light. Sunderland fans, I'd be interested to get your views on this overall manager hunt and where you are with it at the moment in terms of who you want to see coming in. One of the done deals we saw go through in the Championship over these past few days was Ben Gibson completing his move to Stoke City on a free transfer. We spoke about this one in a previous video. Solid pick up there for Stoke, I think, an experienced Championship defender who will add a bit to that back line. But now without any further ado, let's hop into some transfer rumours. Rangers winger Tom Lawrence has been linked with a move back to England, with both Sheffield United and Ipswich Town said to be interested. There's also a bit of interest from Besiktas as well, which is also worth taking into consideration. Lawrence is an interesting player, always someone who I've thought is a good option at Championship level. Would he be a player I'd be considering if I was Ipswich now in the Premier League? Probably not. He's not exactly set the world alight since moving to Rangers. Last season for the Scottish club, got 2 goals and 3 assists in the league. Decent versatile player though, that can play off the left hand side or in as a number 10, and I think is a decent creative option for a Championship club. That's why I can understand Sheffield United looking into this deal. He's only got 1 year left on his contract at Rangers and seems more than likely that he could be on the move this summer. Newcastle have reportedly had their opening offer for Burnley goalkeeper James Trafford rejected. The opening offer believed to be around about £16 million. Now, it's been reported that Burnley are looking for 30 million to sell Trafford this summer. They paid a base fee of around about 15 million when Burnley signed him from Man City, which could potentially rise to around 19 with add-ons, and the Clarets are now said to be looking for 30 million if they're going to offload him this summer. Now, the Clarets do have a decent amount of bargaining power in this one. He did sign on a long-term contract when he joined them last summer with a deal which is valid until 2027, and despite the struggles he had in the Premier League last season, it's been well documented that there are a lot of clubs interested right now. Newcastle, Liverpool, Chelsea and Bayern Munich, all among the clubs who have been linked with the goalkeeper in recent weeks, and it seems as if Burnley are going to be holding out for the big bucks here. What does the future hold for Leeds forward Patrick Bamford? There has been some talk that he could be one of the players moved on by Leeds this summer as they look to trim their squad ahead of next season, but the obvious stumbling block relating to Bamford is about his wages. He's one of the highest earners at Leeds United right now, and a fellow Championship club seems unlikely to match the wage he's currently on at Leeds. Now, if there is some genuine Premier League interest in him, that could change the picture. Nottingham Forest have previously been linked. I've seen a few rumblings with Fulham as well, but nothing concrete on that. He's still got a couple more years to run on his deal at Ellen Road as well, which is also worth taking into consideration. 8 goals in the league last season. Leeds fans will be interested to see where you stand on Bamford right now. After barely featuring for Leeds last season, it seems more than likely that Charlie Cresswell will leave the club this summer. Leeds reportedly looking for around £3 million to offload the defender on a permanent basis, and there are a few clubs that have been sniffing around him of late. Interest from the likes of Toulouse and Hanover has been mentioned, and I mean, it's a bit of a shame really. He didn't really get much of a chance at Leeds last season, did he? In the Championship, he only started 1 game and played a total of 135 minutes, which is barely anything. On one hand, I understood that Leeds probably did have better options than Cresswell last season, especially in that central defensive position where they were so strong. But from what he's shown previously, at Championship level, during that loan spell at Millwall especially, you can't help but feel like Leeds would be losing a top player for the future there. Still only 21 years old, let's remember. And it seems as if Brendan Aaronson has a future at Ellen Road after all. The attacking midfielder spent last season out on loan at Union Berlin. Didn't exactly pull up many trees during his loan spell in the Bundesliga. Just 4 goal contributions for the attacking midfielder all season. And this is quite an interesting story, that it does seem he will be welcomed back to Leeds next season as part of that group to try and get them back into the Premier League. Now, Leeds originally spent a big chunk of change on him, just under 25 million, I believe, is what Leeds originally paid for him. Had a few glimpses of quality in the Premier League, but overall turned out to be a really underwhelming signing based on his debut season. But it seems as if Daniel Farke is willing to give him that new chance in the Championship ahead of next season. And who knows, maybe the drop down to the second division could be the making of him. We've certainly seen that apply to players in the past who have struggled early on in the Premier League, but then built themselves back up in the Championship. He's 23 years old and is on a long-term contract at Leeds, so I mean the possibility of Leeds making their money back on Aaronson was very unlikely given how much they spent on him and how last season went. Leeds fans, I'd love to get your view on this one down below. How do you see a player like Aaronson doing in the Championship, and can Farke get the best out of him? Luton wing-back Alfie Doherty is being linked with a return to the Premier League, with both Brentford and Crystal Palace said to be interested. Now, on the back of the season he's just had in the Premier League, it's no surprise that there is a bit of Premier League interest there. 2 goals and 8 assists. He was definitely among Luton's most consistent performers in the Premier League last season, and still just 24 years old as well. You can see why he'd be a very desirable player to those clubs just mentioned. I'd be interested to know how the Doherty situation potentially affects Ryan Giles and his future as well. Obviously, Hull have still been in talks with Luton and Giles over making that deal permanent. Obviously, Giles spent the second half of last season on loan at Hull, but if Luton were to lose both Giles and Doherty in the same window, they'd have a lot of patching up to do in that left wing-back role ahead of next season. Now, this one did catch me off guard a little bit, but Luton being linked with Emil Smith Rowe. Reportedly, Rob Edwards is a big fan of the player and wants to try and sign him on loan ahead of next season to try and fill the void which will be left by Ross Barkley departing and heading to Aston Villa. Now, Emil Smith Rowe hasn't really had that much action over these past couple of years. Injuries haven't been kind to him and he's fallen down the pecking order quite severely at Arsenal of late. He only started in 3 Premier League matches last season. While Luton do seem interested in bringing him in on loan, it seems more than likely that Arsenal will sell him on a permanent basis this summer, and a move elsewhere in the Premier League does seem more likely, with Fulham also said to be interested. Now, Emil Smith Rowe has headed out to the Championship on loan in the past. He had that stint where he impressed at Huddersfield Town, but at this stage of his career, I'd be very surprised if he ended up in the Championship next season. We've reported on it a few times now, but Hull have been in talks with Manchester City regarding a permanent deal for Liam Delap after he impressed there last season on loan. But they do face some stiff competition to land that deal, as Southampton have also joined the race to go ahead and sign the young Man City forward. Southampton and Russ Martin looking to strengthen their attacking options ahead of next season in the Premier League, and Delap is reportedly a player of interest for them. That could spice things up and potentially get Hull to accelerate their interest in Delap over these next few weeks. Nottingham Forest midfielder Lewis O'Brien has been linked with a move back to the Championship, with the likes of Middlesbrough and Sheffield United both said to be interested. Obviously, Borough had him on loan last season. However, they could be leapfrogged by Ipswich Town, who are also said to be interested in the Forest man. Always been quite a big fan of his since his Huddersfield days, which is where he really sort of made a name for himself. Obviously, the move to Nottingham Forest just hasn't gone to plan whatsoever. But a sale seems more than likely this summer, and with those clubs interested, it'll be interesting to see where he does end up. Matt Ritchie, now a free agent, is continuing to be linked around the Championship. Watford, the latest club I've seen linked with the former Newcastle man. We spoke about some of the other clubs that were linked with him a few videos ago now. 34 years old, didn't feature that much for Newcastle last season, but I'd be interested to see what his level's still at when probably moving to the Championship next season. Speaking of Watford, another player that has been linked with them of late is Ben Osborne. Now, he has been offered the new deal by Sheffield United, but that's yet to be accepted, and so he could be made available on a free transfer if that deal between him and the Blades isn't agreed. Along with Watford, Derby are also said to be interested as well. Sheffield Wednesday are in talks with Brighton of bringing James Beadle back on loan for next season. He obviously spent the second half of last season on loan with the Owls and did really well in that time, I thought. Still just 19 years old and with a hell of a lot of potential. This would be a good deal by Wednesday. Speaking of Sheffield Wednesday, Ian Poveda impressed while out on loan at Hillsborough. He's since been released by Leeds United and so is available on a free transfer this summer. But along with Sheffield Wednesday, plenty of other clubs are interested in the winger. The likes of West Brom, Luton and Cardiff have all been linked. No doubt his agent will be sniffing around and sensing where his client can get the best deal. And could Will Vaulks be on his way out of Sheffield Wednesday? Despite being offered a new contract at Hillsborough, the 30-year-old midfielder is being heavily linked with a move to Oxford United right now. You'd definitely say that Vaulks was among Sheffield Wednesday's most consistent performers last season, and from an Oxford perspective, I think this one would be a really good pickup. A player with lots of championship experience under his belt, still at a decent age as well at 30 years old, and available on a free transfer. I think this one ticks a lot of boxes for what Oxford are looking for. Rotherham defender Cameron Humphreys is being linked with a championship return, with the likes of QPR, Millwall, Swansea and Sheffield Wednesday all said to be interested. Got 1 year remaining on his contract at Rotherham, although the club do have the option to extend that by an extra year, so effectively 2 years left on his deal. Be interested to see how much the Millers would be looking for this summer. Seems more than likely that Scott Twine will be leaving Burnley on a permanent basis this summer, and plenty of clubs are interested in the playmaker. He obviously spent the second half of last season on loan with Bristol City. They're one of the clubs who are interested in taking him on a permanent basis, along with Sunderland and Birmingham as well. Quite interested to see from a Birmingham perspective what they're able to do in this market. Despite being in League One, still looks like financially they'll be able to compete with a few championship sides. But there you have it, guys. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, any other transfer rumours that you've seen going around, make sure to get them in the comments down below. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.